go.
Welcome back to another Bikes and Brews. I'm Ryan.
I'm Carl.
And we're trying another beer that this time I hopefully won't hate. Not optimistic, but we'll find out.
Yeah, we're going to find out about this one. This is a kind of a lighter beer from what I'm looking at. I've never had this,
Okay.
so I'm only guessing. This is a Hefeweizen, and it's a grapefruit version. So I'm thinking this is a summery kind of a light beer, but we're going to give this the old
Two things I
taste-a-roni.
dislike.
Well, you might like this one. You never know.
Yeah, not looking forward to anything grapefruit. All the grapefruit beers you've made me try in the past have been horrendous.
True. That's a good point. That's a really good point.
I don't like grapefruit. I don't like
What
beer.
was the one the citrus one that we had that was like an IPA or something and it had the pilot on the front, the Ranger?
Oh, the Juice Force.
Yeah, the Juice Force.
That one was okay.
Yeah, actually, you didn't mind that one.
Yeah.
That one was like
That was-
9-point-something% alcohol.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites, and I use that term very loosely.
All right. Oh, and remember you were going to describe how you pronounce...
The Schofferhofer?
yes, and I think you're spot on. It is literally Schofferhofer,
I think that was
and you did not make that up.
I think that was the name of my film teacher in high school.
You went to high school?
Yeah. Survived.
All right.
Schofferhofer.
Schofferhofer. And before we reveal the alcohol content of this bad boy, let's give it a taste. Actually, look at the head of this thing. It's got pretty average bubbles, which you care less about.
I was
And
gonna
it's
say,
pretty
why-
cloudy.
Why does anyone care about that?
I don't know, because I mean that gives you a prelude to how carbonated and everything it's going to be, and the head's going to give you a sense of like,
More aroma from it.
yeah. I definitely smell grapefruit.
It's fine.
It's fine.
That is really light.
Yeah,
It's like nothing.
it's one of my favorites. It tastes.
Your favorite beer.
It doesn't taste like grapefruit, which is excellent. It doesn't taste like beer, which is more excellent.
Yeah, it doesn't. I barely taste any beer in this.
I've had kombucha that is more beery.
This tastes a lot like kombucha to me, but a grapefruit kombucha.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm okay with this.
All right.
I wouldn't go out of my way to get it.
A little bit of sediment on the bottom of the bottle. This is a bad boy of 2.5% alcohol, which is like nothing.
We'll need to slow down on these.
These could be sold in a gas station in Utah. In fact, this label, I just saw it, in Kansas and Maine contains no more than 3.2% alcohol by weight, which I lived in Utah. I don't know if you knew that for a little bit, for about like 2 years.
Really?
Yes. I lived in Park City.
On purpose?
It was in the snow town for ski resorts. And there was great mountain biking.
I would
town.
imagine. What were you
And
doing?
road biking.
What were you doing there?
That's when I was working in the snowboarding industry.
That makes sense.
What?
Good
Great place.
Good place to be snowboarding.
Yeah, Park City's actually really cool.
Yeah.
But they have the Utah laws.
That is where my girlfriend grew up.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you know. So, 1 to 10. Give me your opinion on this bad boy. I'm seeing you're enjoying it because you keep going back to that bad boy.
I'm gonna go a 9.
Oh.
I've rated beer that's worse an 8, so I would have to give that a 9. And I'm sure there's something that might be better somewhere.
Somewhere. Actually, I'm gonna. It's gonna be my life mission to find something that you like better than that. That has more alcohol than that.
You really need to set your standards higher.
Yes.
That is
I
not
like
a good life
I
mission
like
at
it.
all.
I like it. I like it, but it's kind of flat and kind of sweet. So I'm good for 1.
You like beer that tastes worse.
Yes, I
You
like
want
beer that's
something
a little
that's-
bit more complex.
You
for
want
me.
a beer that tastes like yard clippings and
No, I don't like IPAs, but I like something that's somewhere in between.
Okay, you want something that tastes fermented as fuck. And
Malty.
yeah, and you gotta kind of chew it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. I'll admit that.
Yeah, that's,
Something that I taste. I want to taste spices, things like that. Yeah. Okay. Anyways,
you want.
so I'm gonna give this.
festive holiday drink.
I'm gonna give this an 8.5,
Okay, fair enough.
which is pretty high.
Yeah.
But I think I'm only good for
Still a
8. I'm a snowman and a half only because
You know what would absolutely hate this beer? RJ.
Oh, yeah.
he might, huh?
He
might
would hate this.
Yeah, he might.
It doesn't taste like lawn clippings.
Yeah.
But only for one beer. If somebody said you had to have 2 of these, my thing would start to go down because I can't just keep drinking these. It'd be
So I just burped a little bit of this.
Yes.
It's closer to a soda.
It is kombucha.
Yeah. It's kombucha with a German label.
Okay. Anyways, so I'm going to probably finish that glass and I will not open that one.
Yeah, I'm feeling it's probably not
Yeah.
gonna sit well.
So thinking of different flavors, let's
Oh.
talk about, so our topic tonight, we're going to talk about different materials for road bike. Actually, it doesn't need to be road bike. It can be any bike. Let's talk about the different pros and cons of different material, what you like, what you don't like, what you know, what you don't know, what
Titanium when you want to go ahead and pay carbon money for something that's not.
which is, it's a really specific buyer. There's a couple buyers I think would work in that, and I actually personally know somebody. They were concerned about the durability of carbon for Clydesdale style riders.
Dozer?
No, I think he has other reasons.
I know he likes the ride quality of it, and I know that's,
there
that's
is
a
a
big
diff-
selling point for
There is and it still has the weight benefits with the lightweight being titanium. So it's not a huge penalty to go, with titanium. And the problem I have with titanium, it's really flexy.
Yeah,
But somebody that wants to go for pure comfort, but still lightweight and everything, I totally get that.
Yeah, if you're going to be doing big rides, just endurance miles,
Yeah.
probably not a bad way to go.
Yep.
There's probably a good reason you're not crit racing titanium.
Right. Right. Because I think they twist up a lot. They're pretty soft.
But on the other end of the spectrum, you have aluminum.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't think it's changed until recently, but you used to just see everything in a crit race was specialized allays and any aluminum bike a brand could make.
Well, I think there's the thing is like in a crit race, it's only an hour. You're going pedal to the metal. You want something responsive. You don't care about weight.
And
Aluminum
you want it
is
to be cheap to
still,
crash.
yeah, and if you crash it, you're not going to be devastated by it and have
Yeah.
to mortgage your house.
Yeah.
So
Ride what you're prepared to ride off.
yeah, I mean Sagan rode one in the Tour de France.
Which
For one
definitely
day.
wasn't just a marketing stunt.
Yeah, totally was not. I mean, you get away with it in the flat stage. I mean, he's not going to go. I don't even remember too many.
That
pictures.
was, what was that, 2018, 2017 or something? It was like a prologue stage. They had him on an allay.
Was it a prologue? Was it
Yeah.
actually not even a real stage?
If it was stage one, and even if it wasn't a real stage, there was really not much going on. Like, it was a very procession type stage.
Yeah, I think that it was definitely a marketing step, but I think you could get away with it when it isn't too mountainy because there is a little bit of a weight factor. The comfort, I wouldn't want to. Even the Tour de France guys, they gotta do over 100 miles. I mean, nowadays the aluminum comfort level is different. You can make them better.
With the fact that you can go ahead and fit 30 mil tires on most bikes nowadays, you can probably take a lot of the harshness out of it.
right.
So it's like, would I, if I was on a tight budget and I wanted a bike, I could just beat the shit.
It's
out of it.
it's a legitimate option.
Yeah.
And you know what? And I'm going to go on the other side with mountain biking. They are finding a lot of reasons to run aluminum. The top downhill racers, a lot of them are preferring aluminum for the way it flexes and everything. Like they find the ride of a carbon bike is much harsher and more
Makes
pingy
sense.
and everything. And in downhill, you don't really worry about weight as much. But there's all, yeah.
That makes sense because I remember, I think it was Crank Brothers had a carbon wheel set, and their whole claim to fame with it was that the actual rim bed would flex and kind of ankle around things to provide a better ride quality. So I don't know, I'm sure that was like more trail or cross country oriented, but
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah, the technology with the hydroforming, everything's come a long way too. So it's not like, an old bike from the mid 90s.
Yeah, it's not straight off the shelf aluminum tube.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about different steel. What's your take on steel?
Steel's fine.
You don't have a lot of experience with steel though.
I rode a steel bike for 4-ish months probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
It was you would have loved this bike. It was steel. It had Campy Super Record mechanical on it, and it was
Okay.
rim brake
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would like it.
with Bora Ultras. It was the loaner bike I had before my OM was finished. Right after I got hit by the car.
OM, huh?
Yeah.
Was it heavy and compliant though?
It was comfortable. It was probably a little bit too long for me, but with that said, didn't have any issues with it. I mean, I didn't get on it and think, wow, this is the most comfortable bike I've ever rode.
It's probably the setup and everything too.
I think there's a lot of hype about it being, super comfortable, and I had probably interpreted that as expecting more comfort than
Right.
than actually came across. At the end of the day, you're still riding a bike with fairly small tires on it.
I mean, I definitely notice a difference. I don't know if it's like to the point where you're like blown away, but I know when I get on a steel bike, it's
It's just less chattery.
yeah, it mutes a lot of the road chatter. It kind of has a different vibration feel. It definitely twists more, but then again, like I've had a couple steel bikes, including the one I have now, which is an 853 Reynolds, which is a high grade steel. It's still regular steel, so it hasn't gone over into the stainless steel stuff. And I think it's great. I mean, it's my backup bike. I used it as a commuter for a while, so I kind of had another purpose for it as well. So I could put a lot of miles on it, and it was really comfortable, and it still is. I like it. I actually raced it in crits a little bit when my regular bike was down, and I could tell the difference. It wasn't as snappy and as fast.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's funny though for how much credit steel gets for being comfortable. I think the most comfortable bike I've ever rode was a Colnago C60.
Yeah.
Which, granted, that's not a performance bike.
You know what? You're right. It is comfortable, but it still rides different than steel. So if you're looking for that unique ride of steel, for whatever reason,
Yeah, because that bike to me, when you were on it, would just
noodle out.
no, it didn't feel noodly at all. It just felt like you could go over a shitty road and it would just even everything out.
Gotcha.
It felt like you had big tires on it when you didn't.
Okay.
And that was what stood out the most to me was the ride quality of that bike.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to another one. Then carbon. How do you feel about carbon?
Let's see. Every bike I've owned.
Oh, you're a young on though.
Yeah, I
so,
say pretty much every bike I've owned is carbon,
I mean, there's a reason why.
except for my Levo, which I didn't get carbon because I just figured it's an e-bike. I don't need to save the weight. I have a motor.
Is it
for that.
aluminum?
Yeah, it's an alloy
Okay.
bike.
I've had aluminum. I've had steel. Had an 853 steel. I'm building a stainless steel. I've ridden titanium. Didn't care for it. I've had aluminum, like I said. Carbon. Different.
Titanium, I feel like, has the most hype around it.
It does, and I haven't been good about getting on board. I'm not a big fan. It's too noodly for me now. I'm looking for different characteristics than other people. So if you're going for pure comfort and weight savings, titanium's a pretty good choice. If you don't want carbon.
What bothers me is all the hype about it being, indestructible. And I remember when I was looking, when I was between, bike builds, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll try titanium.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was right around the time a mutual friend of ours actually had a weld failure. Or no, it wasn't even a weld failure. It was just a crack in the titanium.
Oh yeah,
In the
then
down
you're
tube.
hating it.
And then I'm like, I wonder if that's common. And I did some Google searching, and it was just like everybody who had a light speed, a Linsky,
Well, they have like a fatigue life too, from what I recall.
yeah,
Guru, same thing.
Yep.
yeah, and they would just get weird cracks in them. And for how much hype they get about being indestructible,
And
it's like-
price. I mean, you're at the level of high-end carbon bikes.
yes, no, and that's. I understand aluminum because, from a cost basis, you can get a lot of bike for that.
Mm-hmm.
But for the price of titanium, you have so many options that I feel like you get a lot of the ride quality with steel that you would get from titanium. It's just going to be marginally heavier. But I think you were telling me the other day about, there's newer technology, newer tech for steel and stainless steel
Yeah.
bikes that they're making. Super,
They make the walls
super
super thin in stainless because the tensile strength's so solid, and then because it's so thin, it still has some malignancy and everything. And I think that's the big take about stainless steel. The problem is that there was a small window when that technology of stainless steel came around that overlapped with carbon, and so not a lot of people looked at it.
Well, and didn't Colnago like 2 or 3 weeks ago just release that Steel Novo high-end?
I don't know what steel grade they're using though. Is it stainless?
I don't know how much it really matters because they're doing 3D printed lugs. They're doing all sorts of stuff to where it's like.
I think they're just applying newer technology to it.
I kind of look at it as like a resto mod.
Because I don't think
a high-tech
I don't think
take
you
on
can,
a vintage
and
thing.
I could be wrong here, and I don't know what I'm talking about. But I don't think you can 3D print stainless either.
You can 3D print a lot of metals.
Right. Okay.
I would not say you can't because I'm sure someone would point out that
I mean, what I liked about some of the original, like the Master X light, for Colnago, was they had that the shaped tubing that was uniquely their own, and everything, and it made it ride a little bit different and all that. So there's some artisanship that I think carbon lacks, but the molding and everything is kind of interesting on its own too, but depending on your point of view.
Where I think the artisanship or whatever with carbon comes in is when you start seeing bikes that you just couldn't make out of other materials.
Sure.
You look at like that new Colnago that just got released, Cervelo, the S5.
The shapes and everything.
All those shapes you would never be able to make.
Yeah, I think people don't give credit enough to carbon because the layup could have 5 different kinds of carbon weave and grades and everything, and where it's placed and everything. That's huge.
Well, and I think it was Giant on one of their latest releases actually showed how many individual plies of carbon go into a single bike, and it was nearly 400.
Right, it's ridiculous.
And it's like, okay, well, everybody talks about how these are just like cheap Chinese plastic, whatever. They throw all these derogatory terms at it, and it's like you still have to place all of those
manually into a mold.
Yes. So it's like, okay, I get it. It's not as sexy as, operating a welder.
Where those guys like gritty and everything, and it takes them years to master the welding thing around it. But yeah, I totally agree. I think. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about some stuff that's a little bit different.
Sure.
Magnesium.
I don't think I've ever seen a magnesium bike.
I know they exist. They're supposed to be a really interesting material to work with and everything, but...
So from my past with motorsports, you'd always see magnesium in wheels because it's 30% by weight lighter than aluminum. Mm-hmm. But the issue with magnesium is it is flammable.
Yes, it can catch fire.
And when it catches fire, you are going to have a bad time putting it out if you're not prepared for magnesium.
Well, I remember high school or college or whatever, people would talk about having these mag fires.
Oh, yeah.
And light a motorcycle engine block on fire.
No, Volkswagen. Volkswagen engine block. So mag was used for VW engine blocks because magnesium transfers heat more efficiently than aluminum does. And you can cast it in the same way that aluminum does. So it was more thermally efficient. At the time, magnesium wasn't as expensive as it was.
Yeah.
And, but a lot of the issues now is a lot of machine shops don't like machining magnesium because it's, if you run into an issue, you can burn your shop down in a real hurry.
It's interesting to see what the bike, like what people do, but I think it's cost prohibitive, even though it's a great other material. Like you're talking titanium, magnesium nowadays is like hard to work with, and all this. The manufacturing process is not common.
What's interesting to me is that titanium is not lighter than aluminum, and a lot of people think it is. They mistake that. But then you look at magnesium, and it's 30% lighter than aluminum is. Right. So a magnesium bike
on paper it should be better.
On paper would, if you've got carbon bikes that are, if you've got aluminum bikes that are at or around the level of carbon,
let's say 1,400 grams for a frame.
Yeah, now knock 30% off that, and that's what it would be in magnesium.
Yeah, it's approaching carbon numbers.
In a very similar form of working that material because the nature of the two, they both mill fairly readily. You just make sure your insurance policies
bamboo
tight.
Bamboo.
Bamboo's a material that when I got into cycling and I was first like crawling around YouTube trying to learn everything I could, I thought bamboo was cool as hell.
I thought it was too.
And,
I thought it was too. I'm gonna go there.
I would love to ride one.
I was this close to building a bamboo bike, but then I heard...
So you probably found the same website I did where they would send you everything and they're just like, you can build your own bike. And I'm like, I don't know.
I didn't do
time
that.
or patience for this shit.
I found some manufacturers that were making bamboo, but then like it was usually super wonky, like the way they lugged it with the twill and everything. Yeah. It was that, but then the other people that weren't, that would have more of like regular lugs, then I'm like, well, they kind of have metal lugs and like there's all these different. The bottom line is they're heavy as hell. The compliance is supposed to be amazing. Like they're supposed to be really comfortable,
It's
but
grass. The bike is made of grass.
Yeah, I know. A grass bike.
Yes.
Does it keep growing?
Sadly, no.
And I can only imagine, like, you have to treat it some way because, I mean, you start getting water on it. I don't know.
No, bamboo, I believe, is waterproof.
Naturally, but I mean, you can't just, I mean,
Because I think Chinese history, they would usually cut bamboo shoots and then use those as pipe.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But, I mean, there's got to be a lifespan to that or whatever, though, under stress.
It's like tree.
I mean, they make scaffolding in China. They make scaffolding of it with bamboo. It's lighter than aluminum and everything, you know? Strong.
We were in Hong Kong, and I remember walking around, all the scaffolding is bamboo.
Yeah.
It was so
Trippy.
strange to see, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing when I've been there too. I've been to Hong Kong and it's just like it blows me away. On a huge building, they'll have scaffolding way up there, and you're like, oh my goodness, it's amazing. But shows you the resilience of that material, you know.
And it's entirely recyclable.
Yeah. Anyways, and then they do have wood bikes.
Okay, so the last year Interbike was here. I went to Interbike, and there was a dude who was making wooden bikes, and they were beautifully done.
They're beautiful. I'll admit it. They're beautiful. And who doesn't want to have one just to have one?
Yeah, no. If I had a big enough house and
unlimited budget,
yeah, I would have one just to look at.
I would have one just to be like, I'm gonna go get a cup of coffee right now, and it's a beautiful day. We live in California.
Take my wooden.
I'm gonna take my wooden bike, you know. But it's got to be an amazing ride. It has to be.
Oh, you guys riding carbon? I'm riding oak.
Yeah. yeah. Anyways, I think we beat that to death. Let's move on.
Is there any other weird materials?
There are, for sure. There's actually a company that is doing an alternative to carbon that's supposed to be really sustainable and everything, and I forget what it's made of.
Are you talking about Scalmoly? That 3D printed kind of aluminum, but it's not?
I don't think so.
Okay, because I remember
think it's a
Pinarello
weave.
was using that on their TT bikes to be able to make the seat tube out of like that lumpy tubercle shape.
No idea. Anyways, and then 3D printing too, because like, what's his name's Ghana's bike that he did the hour record was 3D printed.
Yeah, that's that aluminum I'm talking
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How it had those weird.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. But no, but this is an alternative that was supposed to be completely sustainable and everything, and I'm gonna have to look that one up. Anyways, write it in the comments if you know what it is, because I'm brain farting right now.
Weirdest material wins.
Yeah. Anyways, we're out of here. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys out of here now.
Him and his weird ass thumb.
Bye.